Welcome to my channel, Veteran's Legacy. The voice grows stronger, filled with reverence. Today, we bring you a story that will touch your heart, a story of courage, memory, and the kind of loyalty that never fades, even when time forgets. It was a crisp morning at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, home of the Delta Force, the most elite special operations unit in the world. The soldiers were preparing for a classified training exercise, sharpening their weapons, checking their gear, and testing every piece of equipment. Among them was Captain Reed Lawson, a man known for his precision, silence, and an unbreakable will forged through years of combat. Reed had seen things that kept him awake at night, things that only men like him carried silently. But this morning, something strange caught his eye. Near the old supply hangar, sitting quietly on a bench, was a man Reed had never seen before, an older gentleman, in his late 70s perhaps. His posture was straight, his hands steady, and before him lay an M14 rifle, not standard issue anymore, but kept in pristine condition. The old man was carefully oiling the weapon, every movement deliberate, respectful, almost like he was caring for a living thing. Reed frowned. "Who's that?" he muttered to his sergeant. Sergeant Cole shrugged. "No idea, sir. Probably one of the retired instructors. Some old-timers come around now and then." But something about the man's calm presence didn't fit the casual assumption. His clothes were simple. Worn jeans, brown boots, a faded army jacket with no name tag. But the eyes, when Reed got closer, were sharp, clear, like glass cutting through years of silence. The old man looked up, smiled faintly. "Morning, son." Reed nodded respectfully. "Morning, sir. I didn't know civilians were allowed near this section." The man chuckled softly. "Civilians? Yeah, maybe that's what I am now. But once upon a time, this hangar used to be my home." Reed looked closer. There was a patch on the man's sleeve, barely visible, an old, worn Delta Force insignia. Reed's heart skipped. "Sir, you served with Delta." The old man nodded, his hand still moving slowly across the rifle barrel. "Served, bled, and left a few good men behind in places most folks have never heard of." Curiosity grew around the camp. Within minutes, a small group of current operators had gathered, quiet, respectful, but curious. Then came the moment that made every man freeze. The old veteran turned the rifle slightly, exposing the metal near the trigger guard. There, etched deep into the steel, were engraved words. "To the men who never came home. Operation Silent Echo, 1979. Reed's face went pale. That operation, a mission so secret it was erased from records, was one every Delta recruit had heard whispers of. A team had gone into Iran, before the failed rescue attempt of Operation Eagle Claw, to extract hostages. The mission had been unofficial, and most of the team never returned. Only one survivor was rumored to have walked out alive. Reed's breath caught. "You were part of Silent Echo." The old man didn't answer right away. He just kept cleaning the rifle, his hands trembling slightly now, as if the weight of memory pressed against his bones. "I wasn't supposed to be," he finally said softly. "I was supposed to die with them." The men around him fell silent. Even hardened soldiers could feel the shift. Something sacred was being spoken. The old veteran's name, they later learned, was Master Sergeant William Bill Carver, one of the first members of Delta Force when it was founded in 1977. Carver's eyes were distant, staring at something none of them could see. "They sent us in to save men who'd already been forgotten," he said. "We were ghosts before we even left base. Only 6 of us went in. Only one came back." Reed knelt slightly beside him. "You?" Carver nodded, his jaw tightening. "Me. But don't call that survival. Call it punishment." The rifle gleamed under the morning light, the engraving now reflecting off his weathered hands. He told them his story. The sound of his voice carried through the empty hangar, mixing with the soft hum of distant helicopters. "We dropped at midnight. Desert winds so strong they felt like they'd strip your skin off. The target was a warehouse. Intel said hostages were inside. But Intel lied. It was a setup. They were waiting for us." Carver's voice cracked slightly. 5 men went down in less than 2 minutes. I dragged 2 back behind cover, but they were already gone. I had 1 clip left, a broken radio, and a rifle that jammed from the sand. So I did what I could, finished the mission alone. He took a slow breath. Found the hostages. 2 of them alive. Got them out. Barely. But I left my brothers behind. Every night since then, I still hear their voices. The Delta Force soldiers around him, men who'd faced death countless times, found their eyes stinging. Because they understood. They'd lost friends too. They knew the look in Carver's eyes, that hollow ache of a survivor who carried ghosts. Carver lifted the rifle again, brushing his thumb over the engraving. When I got home, I had this rifle engraved, their names, their mission, their memory. I clean it every week. Because it's all I have left. Reed spoke quietly. You kept it all these years. Carver nodded. A man keeps his promises. I told them I'd never forget. So I don't. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Reed said, Sir, you should come meet Colonel Hayes. He's the current commander. He'd want to meet a man like you. Carver smiled sadly. Colonel Hayes. His father was on my team. Private Hayes. Good man. He never made it home. That realization hit Reed like a bullet. The commander's father, one of the fallen from Silent Echo. Minutes later, Reed brought the colonel to the hangar. When Colonel Hayes saw the old man, his expression shifted from confusion to awe. Sir, you knew my father. Carver stood, his old knees shaking slightly. Yes, son, I knew him. He saved my life. What followed was silence, the kind that carries decades of unspoken pain. The colonel's eyes shimmered. My whole life, Hayes whispered, I've heard bits and pieces of that mission. They said everyone died. They said there were no survivors. Carver looked down. That's the way it was supposed to be. The government buried it, but I couldn't bury them. Not in my heart. Then, slowly, he handed the colonel the rifle. I've kept this long enough. It belongs here now, with the men who still carry their legacy. The colonel held the rifle like it was sacred. When he read the engraving, his voice broke. To the men who never came home. He looked up, tears tracing down his face. Thank you, sir, for everything. That night, the Delta Force mess hall was quiet. The men gathered, not for a mission, but for remembrance. They dimmed the lights, placed the rifle on a table draped with the American flag, and stood in salute. Carver sat in the back, eyes wet, hands folded. Then Reed, the captain, stood to speak. This man, he said, voice strong but trembling, is the reason we wear this patch. Not because of victory, not because of fame, but because of sacrifice. The kind of sacrifice that never gets recorded, never gets medals, but lives in the silence of men who remember. He looked toward Carver. You didn't just survive, sir. You carried their legacy so that we could carry ours. As the night went on, stories were shared, laughter mixed with tears, and the old veteran smiled quietly, maybe for the first time in years. When the room emptied, Colonel Hayes approached him. We're putting that rifle in the Delta Museum, sir, under your name and theirs. Operation Silent Echo will no longer be forgotten. Carver looked at him, eyes tired but proud. Just make sure it says all their names, not mine. Hayes nodded. It will. But the men deserve to know the name of the one who brought them home. Carver shook his head. No, son. Just say this. They were the bravest men I ever knew. That's enough. The following morning, when Reed came by the hangar to thank the veteran again, the bench was empty. Only a folded note remained, resting where the rifle had been. Reed opened it slowly. The handwriting was shaky, but clear. It's time for me to go see my brothers. Don't look for me. Keep their memory alive. Bill Carver, Silent Echo. Next to the note was an old photograph. 6 young soldiers, standing together in the desert, smiling despite the dust and danger. Carver was in the middle, his arm around Private Hayes. Reed swallowed hard. He folded the note gently, saluted the empty bench, and whispered. Rest easy, Master Sergeant. We'll take it from here. Months later, at the Delta Force Memorial Wall, a new plaque appeared. It read, Operation Silent Echo, 1979. They fought without recognition. They fell without witness. They live forever in our hearts. And beneath those words, a single name appeared, small, almost hidden at the bottom. William Bill Carver. Soft music swells, a mix of bagpipes and faint bugle sounds. The camera pans slowly across the memorial wall, catching the reflection of the rising sun. The engraved names shimmer in gold. Voiceover. Some heroes never wanted medals. Some never wanted thanks. They only wanted their brothers remembered. And in the silence of one old rifle, the Delta Force found the echo of every man who ever served. The music fades, and the screen turns black. Candle text on screen. Dedicated to all veterans who carried more than their rifles, they carried the weight of memory. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Because every story we share here at Veterans Legacy keeps their memory alive, one hero at a time.